class. Today we have a guest speaker who's not really, someone new to our community, but he's our own Shaykh Mustafa Umar. He's the Director of Education and Outreach here at Islamic Institute of Orange County. If you don't see him as much, it's because we, as you know, we have an extension of our mosque down the road, less than a mile. So a lot of his time does go there, but he is here, and we're very fortunate to have him here with us today. Today's topic is the open question and answer session. So basically, just fire away. So usually we do that on Friday nights with coffee with the Sheikh, right? So for the last 2 Fridays, we had special events, the last 3 weeks. So we want to make sure that those that are not able to make it on Fridays, they also have an opportunity here on Sunday to ask your questions as well. Usually, we have a topic and we go over the topic. So today's platform is a little different, in which we're going to ask questions with Shaykh Mustafa Umar. So I really want you guys to ask any type of questions that you have, or if you have comments or suggestions or any type of feedback, it'll be really appreciated. So having said that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Shaykh Mustafa Umar while he's eating his cookie.
All right, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. Alhamdulillah, it's good to be back after a while at this new Muslim program. This is, alhamdulillah, one of the most amazing programs, I would say, in Southern California, perhaps in America. I was, don't take this the wrong way, I was in Las Vegas on Friday. Giving khutbah at a masjid, okay? Not in the casino part. Alhamdulillah, I just want to clarify that for so, one of the things I realized, we drove Friday morning, me and my dad, we drove Friday morning, gave khutbah, we had a Friday evening program, and we looked at the Muslim community take it further away? Yeah. We looked at the Muslim community in Vegas, and one of the things that we realized is that we take Orange County for granted. Like, honestly, Muslims take what they have in terms of Muslim organizations in Orange County, they take it for granted. We don't realize what we have in terms of the events, the activities, the resources, even the flyers that are being printed. It's just on a completely different level. And people kept coming to me after the khutbah, after the program, and they say, can you send somebody to Vegas. We have nothing like this, There's just the people who are speaking, the programs, the events, there's nothing structured, nothing organized, and they just literally have nothing, unfortunately. It's very sad. And then I look at Orange County and say, SubhanAllah, we have so many events, so many activities, always on the same day. It's really a blessing. You don't realize it until it's taken away from you, So, alhamdulillah, I'm very happy that we have a program like this new Muslim program, which is inshallah going to continue, stay strong, and be replicated across the country. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. There's a lot of good brothers and sisters everywhere, alhamdulillah. So traveling, though, really opens your mind to see different parts of the world that even if you knew about it, you might have taken what you have for granted. So alhamdulillah, that's one thing I just experienced. So, just drove on Friday, just drove back on Saturday. 24 hours there, alhamdulillah, plus 8 hours of driving, alhamdulillah. So inshallah, without further ado, I'll open it up to questions. If anyone has any questions about anything, any events that are coming up, any events that are past, oftentimes, who's been a Muslim for less than 1 year? Who accepted Islam less than 1 year ago? Less than 1 year? Less than 1 year? Okay. So oftentimes, people who have not been Muslim for very long, they will be encountering all sorts of information. There's information just coming at you from everywhere. Information will be coming from different sources. They'll be coming from the sermons that you hear on Friday. They'll be coming from the Muslim friends that you meet and the friends that you have. Somehow you may have been added to some email address group, some email group, or some Facebook group, or some WhatsApp group, and all of these messages start coming and saying, look at this thing about Islam, or this is what Islam tells you, or you should do such and such thing. And oftentimes, unfortunately, sometimes people spread information quickly without fact-checking, without verifying. If you've heard of a website called Snopes, it's like sometimes you get one of those chain mails that go out, and it's actually completely wrong stories, and then you go and you fact-check it, and you're like, oh, that was not true at all. So unfortunately, sometimes things like that, it happens in the Muslim community as well. So even if you don't have a question that you wanted to know, but you wanted to verify and fact check something that you had heard, even if it's from a Muslim friend or from whatever it is, you wonder, like, is that really part of Islam, or just wanted to double check? This is your opportunity, inshallah, to ask those questions as well. It's very good to ask those questions, inshallah. So I'll open it up. Let's see. You know, usually what happens is one person starts, and then one person's like, oh, I have a question along the same topic, and then the questions just start. So we'll start slowly, and then we'll move forward, inshallah. Who would like to open us up? Bismillah. Good question. Good question. Yes. So it has alcohol, right? So yeah. So the question with regards to cologne, perfume, and all of that, there's two aspects to it. The first aspect is that most cologne contains alcohol. And the second aspect is that when it comes to an alluring fragrance, is that considered to be like gender appropriate behavior? So I'll address both of them for you. So the first thing is when it comes to alcohol. So Allah tells us in the Quran, alcohol is prohibited for us to be consuming. We're not, right? We're not allowed to consume alcohol. Yes, I'll give you the whole breakdown. So wine is prohibited, drinking alcohol is prohibited. By extension, that means that all intoxicants are prohibited. What is an intoxicant? Anything that's going to blur your mind and kind of mess you up. So that's all types of drugs as well. Smoking marijuana, cocaine, ecstasy, all of those things fall into the exact same category. So all of those intoxicants are prohibited. Now there's another thing that's mentioned in the Quran specifically. It says that khamr, or alcohol, is rijs, which means it's impure, it's filthy, it's disgusting. Stay away from it, right? So when it says that it's impure, some Muslim scholars, or many Muslim scholars, they've said that this is such a bad thing that we shouldn't even physically be in contact with alcohol, because it doesn't smell very good either, right? It's fermented, barley or grape juice or whatever it may be. So if some of it spills on your clothing or something like that, the Muslim scholars, they say, because it's something that's filthy in the Quran, we should even wash that off of our garments and things like that, right? So there's that perspective. Now the thing is, the alcohol that's inside of perfumes, right, and inside of cologne and all of that, what type of alcohol is that? And what is the relationship between the drinks that you consume and between the alcohol that's inside of perfume or cologne? So that's where Muslim scholars, they looked in detail and they said, okay, well, where is the difference? What they realized is that when it comes to alcoholic beverages, which are intoxicating you, there's ethyl alcohol, right, inside of that, and that ethyl alcohol is what causes the intoxication to occur. That same type of ethyl alcohol, when it's produced on a pure level, right, and it's used in surgical, cleaning surgical instruments, it's used in so many other things, these are among the natural alcohols that are either, they're found in nature, like if you have a fruit and you have an apple and you leave it out for a little while, it will actually have certain trace amounts of alcohol in there. That type of alcohol, number one, it cannot intoxicate you. And number two, it was not produced for the purpose of intoxication. So when it comes to perfumes and all of that, the alcohol in those perfumes is okay. It's not considered to be impure, nor can it intoxicate you. So it's perfectly fine to have alcohol in perfume. So to recap for you, just to give you the summary, I gave you a long answer, so I'm going to summarize for you. Summary is, any alcohol that cannot intoxicate you, number one, and number two, if it was not produced with the purpose of intoxicating you, then you're allowed to use it. Like the rubbing alcohol in your medicine cabinet, right, which it could potentially intoxicate if you drank it, but you'd probably die, right? But other than that, right, you can use it on your body because it was not produced to intoxicate. And almost no one really tries to get intoxicated off of that. Otherwise, whiteout would be considered intoxicating. Barley, nutmeg could potentially be considered intoxicating, and so many other things. Poppy seeds and all of that, So it's okay. Cologne is okay to use. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're okay. You're okay to be putting it in your perfumes and all of that. The second issue when it comes to colognes and perfumes is the difference between guys and girls. So there is a difference, and the difference is that both can use it, but when it comes to women, they should use it to a very minimal extent. And the reason is because oftentimes when women wear perfume, it's like for alluring purposes, and it comes off as like something as being attractive. So it's almost like, you know, not taking off your hijab and wearing like very flashy clothing. It comes off the same kind of effect of attracting people. So that should not be the case. The case, you could wear a cologne to just kind of remove the whatever bad odor and just smell a little bit nicer, but not in order to bring off that strong scent, alluring scent. Inshallah. You're welcome. Yes. Yeah. Right. So when it comes to wearing nail polish, nail polish from a beauty perspective, it's not considered to be so alluring or attracting, depending on the culture in which you live, right? So that's fine, but the issue is with wudu. So to clarify what she's asking, we have to wash ourselves before prayer. And part of the washing, we have to wash our hands and our arms. The fingernails are part of the hands. So what happens is if you have like a watch on and it's really tightly bound, and you put water all over, you're making wudu, but the water is not getting underneath your watch to your hand, you've not done your wudu properly because you skipped part of it, right? So the same question comes up is, what about nail polish? Nail polish is forming a layer, a coating over your nails, and the water is not getting through, so that's as if you skipped these parts of your nails because the water didn't make it there, right? And when it comes to injuries or something like that, like if you have a cast or you have a Band-Aid over it or something like that, that's an exception to the rule because it's needed to have a Band-Aid on that. So you don't have to take it off all the time, put water on there, and then you're going to get sick and your injury is going to get worse. But nail polish is not like an injury, right? This is done for beautification purposes. So it doesn't fall into the same category as an exception to the rule. So what do we do with regards to nail polish? So what most sisters do is they only wear nail polish when they don't have to pray, right? So when they're on their period, they don't have to pray, so they're going to wear nail polish during that time. So that's the most common, and that's been something that's been very common in the past. Now what you're talking about is there's some kind of new nail polish which came out, which is considered to be water permeable. So water permeable nail polish, there's different levels in terms of how much water will go through, and then there's breathable nail polish where air goes through but water won't go through and all of that stuff. So if the nail polish, just to set the theory for you, if the nail polish is water permeable, that when you hold your fingers underneath the tap and you rub a little bit, if the water gets through to the nail, then your wudu is okay. And if the water does not get through to the nail, then your wudu is not okay. So you have to make sure that you're getting nail polish which really can get water through that nail polish and get to the nail. Now, when I did research on this, I learned some very interesting things in life that I did not know, such as that there's something called a top coat, and then there's a base coat, and then there's a French manicure, and then there's a this, and then there's a that, and people put 3 layers, some people put 5 layers. I didn't know any of this, so I learned some interesting things, but the more layers that you put, the less permeable the nail polish is to water, right? So that's where you want to be careful, and you want to be cautious about it. So the thing is, there have not been really amazing testing done on the nail polish. So you have to kind of make your own judgment in terms of what do you feel comfortable enough with the waters going through or not, how careful you want to be. The one nail polish that I've come across that I'm fairly comfortable with, not in terms of wearing, right? I don't do that stuff, right? The nail polish that I'm comfortable that it's permeable is a brand called Tuesday in Love, right? The only reason why I'm comfortable with it is because they show that their testing this is like the most water permeable. It's even made from like water-based substance. You can even peel it off and all of that. So that's one that I'm personally like comfortable saying if someone can wear that, that's great. But I'll tell you the caveat, and the caveat is it doesn't look as nice as some of the other brands. So people say, you know what, at least give us something that looks nicer, you know, or they don't have the colors that I want and all of that. That's not really like my field of expertise, and the color and the gloss and the different shades and all of that stuff. This is what I know to my extent. So yeah, if the nail polish is water permeable and it's proven to be water permeable, then it should be good to go in wudu. And just to be on the safe side, should add a little extra water and try and rub a little bit extra to make sure that the water is getting through. There's no direct like 100% way to test how much is going through or something like that. So generally it would be okay, inshallah. Yes, please, bismillah. Mm. Uh, mm. Mm. From a health perspective, yes. And also it's good to go with ethical companies if you're ever going to be using any cosmetics. Because oftentimes they're tested on animals and they're tested on different things in a very bad way. There's a lot of torture taking place, so you should be careful about that as well. You want to add to that too? For wudu reasons. Yeah. So when it comes to fake nails, the same thing will apply, right? Because it's going to be blocking the water. So I don't know. I haven't done research on fake nails. And like, can you just take them off and put them back on? Or they're stuck for a long time. You take them off and now you're stuck. You have to do the whole process again. Okay. So, yeah, so that's problematic, obviously, because it's not going to let the water get through. And it's not considered to be in the category of necessity because it's not like a cut. Whereas if you had a damaged nail or something like that, and then you were putting a fake nail on top, and that's because your original nail had been damaged, and this is kind of like a medical correction type of thing, that could become an exception to the rule. In terms of length of nails, what is the issue? In terms of for cleaning purposes, you mean, or for what? I just okay. Yeah. In terms of the sunnah part, no, I mean, I'm not aware of a specific limitation for women on the length of the nails. It's more about it had more to do with the cleaning of it. So if they got too long, then what's going to happen is a lot of dirt's going to accumulate. So if you're going to be, I mean, I don't know how common this is, but I mean, if you keep it long, then more dirt will accumulate. And what's going to happen is that dirt will actually prevent your wudu from coming in because the dirt's blocking it. And it's also just unhygienic to have a lot of dirt underneath your nails. But if you're taking care of your nails on a regular basis, then the length is technically not an issue. Yes. Yeah, kafirun, that's correct. Mm. So let me give you the context of that. So the context of these verses that were revealed, what happened is that when the message of Islam came in Mecca, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was calling the people of Mecca, and then they came to him and they said, look, let's compromise. Okay? One of the compromises that they came up with is, according to them, this is a good compromise. We can worship Allah one year, and the following year we're going to worship idols. The next year we worship Allah again, then we'll worship idols the following year. And we agree to this, so we get to worship both. Now for them that works fine, because for them, you could just add another god to the 150 or 500 gods that they have. It's just another one. It's not a big deal. Islam says that there's only one God, so you can't be like compromising on something like this. So this was revealed on that occasion when they were trying to compromise with him. And he's saying there's no compromise in the fundamental principles of Islam. Right? Like Allah is one. You can't say, well, okay, how about we worship Allah one month and then we do idols the other month or something like that. That's not going to work. So that was revealed in that context. Meaning, look, there's no compromise. This is what you worship, I'm not worshiping what you're worshiping. You're not worshiping what I'm worshiping. You have your religion, I have mine. Meaning we're set a line. There's a clear line that we will not cross. That's what it's talking about. In terms of your family, in terms of inviting them to the church, or them inviting you to the church, you inviting them to the masjid or something like that, here's the thing. It all comes back down to harm and benefit. So, if they're inviting you to come to the church, and they say, if you come to the church, then we'll stop by the mosque or something like. That's what's happening basically? So the thing is, you have to know what's going to happen when you go to the church, right? You have to weigh the harm and the benefit. So, if you go to the church, and then they come to the mosque, if they come to the mosque and they're not even want to talk to anyone, they just come in and start arguing or something like that, they're not interested in learning anything, then they're not going to get very much benefit from coming to the mosque if they come with that mentality. And if you walk into the church and they made the call and they're like, we got this new Muslim coming in, get the whole missionary team flying in from all over the country, and we're ready. As soon as she walks in, we lock the doors and we're going to sit her down, and we're going to come in with like the expert anti-Muslim team, and they're going to be like, look, Islam is this, Islam is that, look at this lady, look what happened in this random place in Africa to this Muslim lady, and then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, I didn't know all this stuff, and now it's going to harm you, because the propaganda machine goes into motion on you. So that's what I'm saying. So if there's such minimal benefit on this side and such potential harm on your side, then it's not something that you should do. But if it's the opposite, and they're like, look, we've been Christian a long time, and we still don't know about this Islam thing, so why don't you just come visit the church, just sit, we're not going to ask you to do anything, we're not going to put any pressure on you, we just want you to just be there, have you been to this church before, or you've never been there before? No, but you don't this is not your regular church that you attend. Okay, so let's say you were to go and they say, look, just come and check it out. We just want you to see. We're not going to put any pressure on you. And you say, okay, you go there, and there's minimal harm. Nothing really happens. They're like, you just go and sit. When it's prayer time, you're like, look, I only pray to God. I only pray to Allah. You guys are praying to Jesus. I'm not going to join you. And they're like, oh, no problem. Just sit in the back. Everything's going to be fine. And then you invite them to the masjid, and they're like, okay, I'm interested in learning. Since you came, I'm going to come. I'll try and come with an open mind. I'll listen. In that case, there's going to be minimal harm to you and benefit for them for coming to the masjid. So you have to assess what you think the situation is going to be. Is it going to be situation number one or more like situation number two? And you kind of have to know your family and ask them some questions and kind of see what's going on. If it's situation one, you should say no. If it's situation two, it may be worth it, but you just got to know your limit, right? So when they stand to praise Jesus, you're sitting on the bleacher, which means you may want to sit in the back, because if you're sitting in the front and you're the only person, sitting down, everyone else is standing, you're going to start feeling awkward, right? So that's what I do. So whenever I go to visit a church, I'm invited oftentimes, what I'll do is I'll tell them either I'm going to stand in the back, right, or I'm going to sit down in like the back as back as possible. And when it comes my time to go in the front, like they ask me to give a speech or something like that, I said, don't worry, I'm really fast. I can get from the back row to the stage very quickly. So don't worry about it. I'll be there before you even finish my introduction. So that's what I do. And then I go to the back. I say it's going to be awkward, but sometimes if I'm stuck in the front, you just got to be prepared. There's certain things you don't want to do. They're going to get up and they're going to be, singing a song, or depending on the church, right? They're going to be praising the Lord, praise Jesus. You go in there with the right mentality. I'm going to be sitting there, and I'm totally comfortable. And someone's going to be staring me down. I'm going to stare him down too. And I'm like, what are you looking at? I'm Muslim. You invited me here. Don't stare me down. I'm going to stare you down for staring me down. You have to come with that confidence. That's very important. So otherwise, I know a lot of people. I know a lot of Muslims. They've been invited to a church, and they didn't walk in with the confidence. And they walked in like, I don't know what to do. And they got pressured into doing things which are against Islam. And you got to know your own personality. If you're the personality that can be like this, then you should be okay. If you're not, and you're gonna feel a little bit, people are staring at me, maybe I should just stand, or maybe I should just say hallelujah like everyone else, or something like that. Then you shouldn't do it. So you should know yourself. You know. Yeah. Mm. It's not wrong for you to say it, but if it's going to cause a conflict, you don't have to object either. Right? So you have to play it by. I mean, if she's saying that, she's like, I'm praying for you, and I hope Jesus guides you, and all of that stuff. You can say like 1 or 2 times, why don't you pray to God instead of Jesus, or something like that. And if she's like, I'm tired of you telling me this, and it's becoming awkward, it's okay. You can pray. She can say whatever she wants. She can come in and pray whatever her name, and say, I'm also going to pray to God to guide you as well, and I hope He guides both of us on the right path. And that's it. It's all about etiquette and respect between each other, But yeah, you don't have to see. This is the thing. It's very important for our new Muslim family to understand. It is important to correct other people. It's important to spread the message of Islam and tell everyone else. But you don't have to correct every single wrong that you see. Every statement that someone makes that now you like. It's like for you, when you become like a new Muslim, I know I've been through a similar process. It's like for you, it's like you've been not realizing this your whole life. And now it's like you want to share this with the entire world because you're seeing something that you had never seen before. But other people are not ready for the same thing. They're not in the same mentality, right? So you feel sometimes like automatically anything they say, you want to correct it. You don't have to correct every single thing, and you shouldn't correct every single thing until it's the right time and the right place. That's very important. It's a very, very important thing too, because a lot of us made that mistake, and we just start calling out everyone and everything because you want to guide them to the truth. You want them to understand what you understand, but it's not always the most appropriate thing to do. So you have to just use wisdom and know when to speak and when not to speak. Yeah, so when it comes to shaking hands, that's a good question. So generally, in Islam, men and women are not supposed to touch each other. That's the general rule. Okay, they're not supposed to touch each other unless there's a reason to do so, unless there's like a need to do so. So what is a need? You're working as a nurse and you're seeing patients and you have to take their blood pressure, right? Or you're working as a doctor and you need to, check your client or something like that. Or you're a chiropractor and you need to, touch someone's back or something like that. So that's generally considered the case of need, right? Then you have another, something kind of in the middle. It's like a gray area, you can say. And that gray area is that oftentimes we live in a time and place where when you don't shake someone's hand, they take it offensively. And sometimes you don't get the opportunity to explain in detail why you're not shaking their hand. And there's this idea, there's already like this negative Muslim sentiment and all of that stuff. So some Muslim scholars, they say, look, if you shake hands with someone and there's no desire and no attraction between you, and the only reason you're doing it is because you think that they're not going to understand where you're coming from, and you don't make this a normal practice, and you don't do this among Muslims and all of that, so then that's something that's not considered to be sinful. All right? It's not going to be something that's wholly against you. So basically, the way that I do things generally is I used to be very, very particular about it. Afterwards, it's more like in our community or when we're in the masjid, I tell people you should respect our Islamic culture, right? Respect our Islamic culture when you're on our turf, basically, right? When you come into the masjid, when you're in a Muslim community gathering or something like that, we won't be touching each other because you should show that level of respect because you're coming as a guest here. Whereas if we go to you and we don't meeting people for the first time or something like that, if there's no other way to avoid it, It's not considered sinful, but it's better to avoid it if possible. So what are some ways to avoid it? I mean, one of the general things is to, like, what I do is I put my hand on my heart, or I take a little bow, or like a little thing like this. And oftentimes what I do is when I do like this gesture, I usually close my eyes a little bit and put my head down. So what's going to happen is that a lot of times I find that if I do it too quickly and I open my eyes, I see like a hand sticking out there, and the person just doesn't get it. Like, they just don't understand that this is my respectable way of saying that we don't shake hands. The person doesn't get it. Sometimes people don't get it at all. I'll close my eyes for like 10 seconds. Like, very, very nice to meet you. It's fantastic. I'm so happy to meet you. And then I open my eyes, and there's a hand been sitting out there for 10 seconds, you know. So it's, sometimes it's very difficult, you know. So if you get an opportunity to educate someone and you think it's appropriate and you have the time to explain to them, in Islamic culture, we generally don't shake hands out of respect, great. Sometimes you don't get the opportunity, like, for example, there was a congressman, Muslim congressman, right? He says, what do you want me to do if there's public television broadcasting, we have Islamophobia, I'm a congressman, I walk up on stage and I meet another congresswoman, comes up, and she comes in, I'm going to give a speech, and she comes up to shake my hand, and I know if I try one of these things, she's just going to be like this, and the media is just going to zoom in and be like, Congressman Keith Ellison refuses to shake the hand of Congresswoman whatever, right? He's like, that's going to be really bad. You know, I'm like, I know, that would be pretty bad. You know, so those type of things, you could kind of put them almost in like a need category. So basically the general thing is, if there's a need, then it's okay. If there's no need for it, then it generally should not be done. That's kind of, and then you have to make your own decisions when it's appropriate or when it's not, you know. Yeah, that that I wouldn't recommend, you know. So, alhamdulillah. And you just got, and now the culture is changing. You guys got to be careful with the hugs too. I mean, the hugs is even worse because there's a lot more feeling involved when it comes to, you know, the hugging. Even if it's like supposedly innocent hugging, you're way more physical, right? So you have to be very careful about that. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about it, you know. Sometimes I'll walk into like a interfaith gathering or something like that, and you know, someone goes up, one person goes to shake my hand, and I'm just like this. I shake one guy's hand. Some random pastor, or like one time a rabbi woman, she just came up, she just grabbed me, and I'm just like, you know, I'm like, what's going on here, you know? So she's like, I just had to come and give you a hug. I really like that speech. I'm like, okay, you know, what am I supposed to do? So sometimes if you can't help it, you know, don't worry about it so much, but you try your best, and Allah knows that you're trying your best. Yeah. Yes. 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 So because you're going to be around them so often. See, the thing is, what I was talking about is these are one-time transactional relationships with people, right? You're going to see them one time, right, and you touch them. When it comes to family, it becomes more difficult. When it comes to family, you need to tell them that, look, this is one of our regulations in Islam. You know, you are my cousin, and I know we kind of grew up and we're close, but I cannot be hugging you and touching you anymore because we have certain restrictions, and you explain to them the wisdom behind those restrictions, you know. That is if your family knows that you're Muslim. If you're hiding the fact that you're Muslim from them, then it's an exception to the rule. You don't need to go in it because it'll blow your cover, basically. I know. Yeah. If they're underage, if they're not really considered to be men yet, then yeah, it's okay. If they're young, then it's okay. But the thing I would warn you about is that oftentimes people in families, they say, but your cousin, he's like your brother, you know? You would never marry him. Like, we can never think about that. Islam has certain lines that have been drawn, and one of the lines is who you can marry and who you can't marry. And you never know what's going to happen. I mean, that's the thing. Islam takes precautions. So you can, you have cases where people are like, no, you hug your cousin, and you guys will never have that relation. You guys have always been so close. And the reality is, like, all of a sudden, 5 years later, they become attracted to each other, and then they're interested in each other. So if someone is like your something, it doesn't mean that they are your something, right? So when it comes to aunts and uncles, real aunts and real uncles, they're prohibited for you in marriage. So you're allowed to hug them and all of that stuff. But when your nephew, your niece, but when it comes to cousins, you're not. Mm. If you're a nurse and the doctor's putting hand on the nurse, that's a big problem. That's a huge problem. So yeah. Mm. Yeah. So when it comes to going to the doctor, you should always request a female. You should request the same gender if they're going to be touching you. You should always request it whenever possible. If for some reason, let's say there's a specialist you need to go to, and there is no other specialist of that gender, then it's considered medical exception. But you try your best, Guys, have any questions? All right, they're just listening. Huh? Usually once, alhamdulillah. Yes. It's look at, because there's less guys, man. It's alhamdulillah. Yes. Good question. Did the Prophet ﷺ ever learn how to read and write? So we know for a fact that when he first received revelation, he did not know how to read and write. And according to most historians, they say that throughout his life, he never learned to read or write because he never needed to. Right? There was no need for him to do so. But according to very few scholars, Imam al-Baji, Imam Walid al-Baji is an Andalusian Spanish scholar. He said that the Prophet ﷺ did learn later on in life, like, last few years of his life, that he picked it up through his interactions and his communications and all that. So most likely he didn't, but if he did, he didn't learn until like the end of his life. But he's known to be, illiterate when he received revelation, which is the most important thing. Yeah, very, very basics. Correct. It's like the very basics that he learned. Yeah. Nothing significant. And it's an important question. But let me ask you real quick before I answer. Why did you ask that question? Okay. So good. I'm glad I asked you then. So the answer is, when it says that he wrote letters to other rulers, it means that he dictated letters to other rulers. He didn't write those letters with his own hand. So all the communications that he had, this is known in history for a fact, all the communications he had, he dictated them and they would write them out. And the thing is, this is common practice. I mean, so many people, even till today, they still do this. And most of the leaders, they would just dictate, and people would write it out for them. So they would have scribes, basically, that write out, for them. There was another question somewhere back there, yes. Either one of you two. So if you missed fasting in Ramadan, you basically have to make it up with fasting. So there's no other way to make it up. You make it up as soon as you can. So is there a reason for the difficulty? Was there like a medical difficulty or something like that? what I would recommend is to make it up in winter time, when the days are shorter. Yeah, that's usually the case. Or another option in addition to that is if you, it's been so long I can't remember the word. If you pump milk and then you store it, and then you don't have to breastfeed on those days, and you can give the baby the pumped milk that you had, then it's easier to fast on those days since you won't actually be feeding on those days. So these are two options that I know people have tried before, and that can work. And also, remember, whenever you're fasting, your diet in the morning and in the evening is extremely important, and it affects how you're going to be able to fast or not. So if you can't make it up now, you make it up before the next Ramadan. If it's so difficult for you still to do it, you just delay and you make it up after that. Oh yeah, you don't have to make up all the days in a row. Yeah. So when you miss Ramadan, it's recommended, but you don't have to make them all up in a row. You could do 2 days and then another 2 days later on, or you could just fast Mondays and Thursdays, and it'll be made up in a little while. So it doesn't have to be in a row. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So anyone who's diabetic or anyone who has any type of condition that prevents them from being able to fast the whole Ramadan, right? They are exempted from fasting. They don't need to fast. So what they're going to do, because it's a chronic problem that they have, it's not acute, it's not like a short-term thing, it's a long-term thing. So for them, they're not going to fast, and they're going to feed one poor person for every single day of fasting that they miss. That is their way of participating in the fasting without actually doing the entire fast. One poor person for a day, meaning 2 meals. 2 meals, yeah. On dating? Yeah. So when it comes to relations in Islam, outside of marriage, there's not supposed to be any relationships. Relationships meaning, even when it comes to boyfriend, girlfriend, when it comes to dating, all of those things, unless that dating is specifically for the purpose of marriage, and it is done in an Islamic way. What Islamic way basically means is usually you have another person present, another responsible person present, who, when you're talking to your potential spouse, asking questions about life and where you want to live and all of that stuff, that other person is there so that your interaction with the person becomes like business casual, business professional. It's not a casual conversation about random things, because that becomes, what's the right term for it? That becomes like, you'd say loose talk or whatever you want to call it. So that's what's not allowed in Islam. So you have to be careful about that. So yeah, internet communications, they fall into the same category. So if you're chatting with a potential spouse online, you follow the same protocol, and there's a few protocols. Protocol number 1 is that you're not alone together in private. Physically, you're not alone together in private. The same thing applies when it comes to conversations online. Shouldn't have just private conversations that are casual in nature. There should be somebody else there, okay? If you're asking questions via email or via chat, that like, hey, okay, if we were to get married, what type of city would you want to live in? You know, do you want a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom apartment, things like that, right? All of that should be kept to the purpose at hand. Once you start going off and like, oh, you like chocolate cappuccinos too? Oh, me too, that's my favorite, you know? Oh, your favorite color is blue as well? Mine too, you know? That's when you've gone off, right? And then what happens is that's when you become emotionally attached. And I know this is a very foreign concept. This is a very strange concept to a lot of people who grew up in this society, is that you're not supposed to be emotionally attached before marriage. For them, most people, they think that you're supposed to get emotionally attached That's how you know you're supposed to get married. And Islam says, no. You're supposed to know what you want in a partner. And you find out whether this person is on par with you in terms of what you're looking for. And then you become emotionally attached in marriage. The reason why this is so important is because once you become emotionally attached in love, in a sense, right? What's going to happen is that you will put aside all the things that you are actually looking for because you're emotionally attached. And then you get into the relationship and you get married, and then you're like, I knew this was going to be a problem, but I just overlooked it because I was being blind because I was in love with the person. And that's a big problem. And that's why I see too many people making that same mistake. You have to keep warning them. And what happens is when people don't listen to the first part, they end up in the second part. So when I give them advice, I say, look, don't talk about your favorite type of coffee unless you've already discussed the most important parts of where you want to live, what type of lifestyle do you want to have, how is your family life going to be, and then you go, by the way, okay, what kind of food do you prefer? But if you bring a casual conversation, you talk about this, and you like to go this, and you get into this thing, immediately you're going to jump into becoming emotionally attached. Once you become emotionally attached, it's done. You will not want to say no to this person, even if they're not good for you. Even if you found out somehow, they're like, you know what? After a long time, they told me that they don't want to pray 5 times a day. They like to sleep in until 9 a.m. And originally when I was searching for a spouse, I always wanted someone who we're going to pray together, we'll pray all the prayers together. But I guess it's not so bad. It's just one prayer. You'll make all the excuses in your mind, and the only reason why you're doing that is because you're emotionally attached. Because you got into something that you shouldn't have been doing in the first place. So we have to be very, very careful about that because it's going to affect you in the long run. Good question. I got like super silence all of a sudden. So, inshallah. Yeah. Hardcore Palestinian. Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. Fasting is supposed to be difficult. It's not supposed to be extremely difficult, but it's supposed to be difficult. I mean, that's part of fasting. If you don't feel anything in the fasting, what's the point of fasting, right? You're not achieving anything. So this is the thing, is that it's supposed to be difficult, but not extremely difficult. And then what you have is, in the Muslim community, you have 2 extreme type of people. And you have to know kind of which side you gravitate towards. There's the one extreme that's like, you know what? Someone is literally like dying when they're fasting. They cannot move. They cannot get up. And they're going to be like, no, it's Ramadan. And you know what? If I die, I'll die a martyr. Inshallah. La ilaha illallah. And they're going to be buried. Right? That's one extreme. Fasting is not supposed to be extremely difficult. That type of person who's sick and they have the flu and they can barely move, they should not be fasting. Okay? Then you have the other extreme type of person. And they say, you know what? It's 90 degrees outside and my air conditioning is gone because I have to walk outside and get my boss some paper, And what am I going to do? I feel some sweat coming down. I think I should break my fast, Not the case. That's totally extreme. Fasting is supposed to be a little bit difficult, right? So the thing is, you have to know which side you gravitate towards, and Islam is always in the middle. It's always that balance in the middle, right? So you're going to feel some hunger, you're going to feel a little bit difficult, you might feel a little bit headache, you're going to feel a little bit less energy maybe, especially in the beginning of Ramadan, but you still fast. But if you get to the point where it becomes so difficult, you cannot function at all, right? Or your boss tells you, you know what, the last time I saw you drop your head 3 times on the table, and you cannot work for us like this, right? That's when you need to break your fast and say, I can make it up later. You make it up in winter, or you make it up after Ramadan is over, or something like that. Mm. Yeah, so whatever fast you miss, because this is a temporary surgery that you had, in terms of it, you get healed afterwards, right? So you can fast now. You make it up as soon as you can. As soon as you can, but don't delay until the next Ramadan. Should be before the following Ramadan comes, inshallah. Yeah. Abortion, yeah. Mm. Mm. Okay. Mm. Yeah. So when it comes to abortion, um, basically it all comes back down to when the soul is going to be put into the fetus, right? That's what matters. Once Allah has put the soul in, then it's a human being, and you treat a human being totally different than you treat a fetus that doesn't have a soul yet, right? So in terms of when does the soul actually go into the fetus, we we don't have an exact answer, but we have an approximate answer in Islam. And there's 2 narrations. So there's two statements. One of them, it says 40 days. And the other one, it says 4 months. Okay, so there's 40 days and there's 4 months. So based upon this, we don't know which one for sure 100% is going to be the actual ensoulment, as they say, the soul going in, right? So what scholars have said is that before 40 days, if there's some reason to do it or something like that, it can be aborted before 40 days. After 40 days, between 40 days and 4 months, it generally should not be done unless there's a very good reason for it, right? Because this could be that the soul is there and all of that. It should not be done, generally, unless there's a good reason. After 4 months, it should not be done at all unless there's very extreme cases. Extreme cases like the mother's life is on the line and you have to choose between the mother or the child in a case like this, right? So that's the general rule when it comes to abortion. When it comes to making the decision between 40 days and 4 months, is there a good reason to abort the child or something like that? It all depends on individual circumstances. So you should ask specifically about your friend or whoever it may be about their circumstances, consult with someone, and they can help you make a decision whether it's right to do it or whether it should not be done. So hopefully that gives a little bit perspective. If you do it either way, you're saying? So if you have the good reason to do it after the 40 days but before the 4 months, then it's the same category as before the 40 days. Does that make sense? Oh, we got a guy question. All right, alhamdulillah. Yes, good, good. So Muharram is one of the months in the Islamic calendar that's coming up. So Muharram is the first month in the Islamic calendar, so it's the New Year's basically. So in the Islamic calendar, it's a lunar calendar. So the calendar that we use, January, February, March, April, May, that's a solar calendar, Gregorian calendar. So the Islamic calendar is a lunar calendar. So it has 12 months, but each month the number of days is 29 days or 30 days. Right? Whereas in our calendar, it's either 30 or 31 days, with one February being 28, plus leap year every 4 years. So Muharram is the first month of the Islamic calendar. And what's special about it, it's not just the new year that makes it special. There's the 10th day of Muharram that's very special. And the 10th day is actually the day when Prophet Musa escaped from Egypt, crossed the Red Sea, because the Red Sea parted, there's a story about it, and Pharaoh went in, and Pharaoh was drowned and killed, and Prophet Moses was saved from Pharaoh and all of the Muslims there at the time. They say Jews, but they were technically Muslims, right? So in order to commemorate that, what Muslims do is we fast on that day. So the 10th of Muharram that's coming up, there's fasting on that day, which is considered to be special. And what you can do, because the Jews used to fast on the same day, the Prophet, peace be upon him, he said, if you add one day before or one day after, it's better. So you can fast on the 10th, or you can add one day before or one day after, or both. You can fast 3 days, you can fast 2 days, or you can fast one day on the 10th of Muharram, which is going to be coming up soon. So when exactly is that coming up? You have the date? 2 weeks? 21st? Should be around the 21st, yeah. So we'll announce it again. We'll give you a reminder, but that just gives you a little bit insight into what's going to be happening. In about 2 weeks. When you say? 21st is? That's it, yeah. All right, September 30th, approximately. So we'll announce it again, but just to let you know, give you a heads up about what's coming up and what to do at that time, right? And the most common question probably is going to be like, if I didn't fast Ramadan and I'm making up my Ramadan fast, can I just combine with the 10th of Muharram and the other one? You should do it separately. So your makeup should be separate from getting the extra credit reward of doing the 10th of Muharram fast. Okay. Yeah, so when it comes to marrying Aisha, his wife, yeah, people criticize them for marrying her. It said that she was age 9 when she got married. Yeah, no, 9. So, yeah. So 9. So the thing is that her exact age, how well do we know her age? Like, how sure are we that she was 9? We're not like 100% sure, because Arabs didn't really keep their keep their ages that well. It's not like that well documented. So if you look at his first wife, right? So how old was Khadija when she got married to the Prophet? A lot of people will say 40, right? But then another narration in the same historical source is that she was 27. There's a world of difference between 27 and 40, right? Big difference between that. Why is that? Because Arabs were not people who cared about the birthdays. It was not such a big deal, right? So how sure are we about this age? Not that sure. But if she was 9, right, where's the issue? So the issue is this. People are they look at it from our cultural perspective. Wow, that's way too young, okay? It's way too young from our perspective. But if you look at it from, whenever you're looking at another culture, it's very important not to impose your own cultural understanding upon that culture. Because you just look at them from the outside and be like, well, we would never do something like that. You don't understand what's going on. So there's a few things about this. One is that Arabs were known to mature very early, right? So they used to physically develop much earlier because they would be living in the desert, right? So that's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is they were capable of pregnancy and all of that at that age as well. So their maturity level was very advanced, right? Number 3, people say, well, she was too young to make her own independent decisions and all of that stuff. Aisha lived a very whole life and a very important life after the Prophet, peace be upon him. Never once did she ever complain and say, you know what, I was taken away and I did not get the choice and I had to marry this man. And most people who have these, non-choice marriages and all of that, they're going to be bothered by it, they're going to be affected by it later in life and all that. None of this is the case. So oftentimes the moment we hear someone is too young, we put all of these other assumptions built in that, well, if that was the case, then this must have happened, she must have been traumatized, she must have been forced, this must have happened. This is not the case. If we understand the whole thing about who her father was, Her father was Abu Bakr, the best friend of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Who she became a leader of the Muslims. She became a scholar at the time. She's the head of the companions. You know, she even participated in battles, you know, on her camel and all of that stuff. So many things happen. So the thing is, when we understand that if she was 9, it's still not a problem. And are we 100% sure that she was 9 for sure? No, we don't know for sure. We don't know guaranteed for sure, because ages were not that big of a thing at the time. And also, nobody complained at the time. Like, the Prophet had so many enemies, right? So many people were just waiting for moments to throw some mud on Islam. Not a single person ever complained that he married her and she was this young, because it was a normal thing in Arabian society. Not only was it normal, it was not considered immoral, because there was nothing wrong with it, actually, right? So this is like a new argument. If you look at the age of Americans, right? What is the marriage age of in America? This 18, I don't even know if it's 18 or 21, whatever, it's 18 or something like that, right? 18. This is something completely new. 1 century ago, 12-year-olds were getting married, 11, 13, even states, 1940s, 1950s, you have like probably 20 states are still having regulations of 12-year-olds. That was how old you had to be to get married. And so many cultures in the world, they don't have this 18 regulation. So when people say, oh, you married someone underage, the word underage, it means nothing, because underage, so you're saying if someone gets married at the age of 17, there's immorality going on? Okay, no, what's the age? Is it 15? Is there immoral? So if you go to like certain parts of the world, many different parts of the world, they get married at age 15. They're underage. Does that mean that it's immoral what they're doing? No, it's not their society. Like, it's a different culture, different society, right? So that's important too. And then, alhamdulillah, we have a sister who wrote an article on this, actually, about the age of Aisha. If you want it, you can ask Sister Rola. Alhamdulillah, she wrote her research paper from our university. She wrote it on this topic about the age of Aisha. If you're really interested in knowing more, it's like a, 10, 15 page paper? Something like that. It was like 10 or 15 pages. It's a great article, alhamdulillah. She got an A on it, alhamdulillah. I'm not sure where those numbers came from, but yeah. The thing is that with websites, anyone can just put out a website without high quality content. If you really want to know more, if you need more information, just ask her if she can send you the article, inshallah. That's right. According to the Catholic Encyclopedia, they say Mary was married at the age of 12. Yeah, and there's young, very very young age marriages in the Bible. That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. Yeah. So when it comes to prayer, um, in the first week after becoming Muslim, or in initial stages of becoming Muslim, this is what I advise, is that if you have not learned how to pray, it's been like your first week of prayer or something like that, what you should do is you should take out, if you don't know anything about prayer, you don't even know what standing and bowing or anything like that is, you should take out time every day for the 5 daily prayers. If you have our Welcome to Islam book, it tells you the timings of the prayers. You can figure out the timings. So there's five times of the prayers. Take out time from your schedule to just sit and remember Allah during that time in the beginning. That should be the case. Like, if you have not learned anything about prayer. And that applies mainly to people who, they've never been to the masjid, they don't know what standing is, they don't know what the bowing is, and they don't even know the motions, right? So that should be like their first week, if they don't know what's going on. After the first week, right, once you understand, okay, well, we hold our hands and then we do the bowing position and all of that, what I would say is learn the positions of the prayer and learn the very basic of what to say within the prayer, Not the whole Surah Fatiha, not all the details, just something like saying Subhanallah or something like that, which is mentioned in the books that we give out as well. All you got to do is you say those things, very, very minimal. This could be learned in less than 20 minutes, like literally less than 20 minutes. So it requires like a 20-minute investment to get to this next level, right? So that next level is you should be taking out time during the prayer times, the right of the 5 prayer times when you're at work, just during your 10-minute break that you have, quickly, go make your coffee, go in the back corner somewhere and do your prayer, come back, your coffee is warm, warm enough now that you can drink it. It's not too hot if you don't drink hot coffee like me. So you do that, and then you keep building yourself up in terms of the prayer, whereas you start learning more details of what to say. But at the beginning stage, the first stage, you don't know anything about the movements, just take time out and just, remember Allah in any way you can, just by praising Allah. The next step, which should not be delayed, I would say more than 1 week. Like it should not take more than 1 week. Once you get to the next step is the motions now. The motions are not difficult to learn. There's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 motions, like technically to learn, right? So once you learn the motions, you learn those things, you learn how many units there are in each prayer, you learn how the units work and all of that. That's like another 20 to 30 minutes of time investment. You just keep on practicing that with minimal statements in your prayer. Saying Subhanallah or Alhamdulillah or something like that. And then over time, as you gradually progress, you start to memorize those things in Arabic as you go along. You'll memorize Surah Al-Fatiha, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. That, I would say, depending on the people, it could take a month for someone to get that down. I think if someone waits more than 6 months, it's too long to get all the stuff in the prayer down. Within 6 months of being Muslim, they should have the stuff that should be said in prayer, they should have it down. Because we're talking about, like, probably, if you think 6 months, we're looking at about 2 minutes a week of time investment. I'm sure you could get it within 6 months. So it's very reasonable, So that's generally what I would recommend, inshallah. Okay. That was okay. That was okay. That's not the way that I recommend, though. So what I recommend is that you memorize certain small parts of it rather than having the whole thing. And then what you do is you read the translation along with it so that you are saying the prayer in Arabic, because eventually you want to get to the Arabic anyways. So instead, I say start with small Arabic parts, get the translation down, and then you start to get used to it, and then you keep on memorizing more of the Arabic parts along with reading the translation so you know what's being said. And actually, if you look at the How to Pray book that we give, it's a very small book. It's not a long book at all, right? So I think it's a very doable process. It just requires a little bit. I know memorizing something in a foreign language is not an easy thing. But it's like fasting. It's not easy, but it's not extremely difficult either. It requires a little bit of effort, and it can be done. Which brings me to the perfect time to talk about our school that we have, California Islamic University, which is down the street in Fullerton. So what we're offering is a bunch of different courses, but let me talk about, connected to this question. We have one course specifically, which is called Quranic Recitation 1. So this Quran Recitation 1 course, on this side of our core classes, it basically teaches you how to read the Quran in Arabic. So that when you're reading Arabic letters, you can actually read the Arabic letters, And the reason why we do this, technically, can you be Muslim without learning how to read the Arabic language? Yes, you can. But the reality is, if you want to kind of transition into the community and get a good feel for everything, if you look at the Muslims in the world, how many Muslims are there in the world approximately? Now it's like 1.7 billion, okay? So about 1.7 billion Muslims in the world. What percentage of them are Arab, that they speak Arabic fluently? About 20%. right? Which means 80% are non-Arab. They can't understand Arabic. You say 5 sentences in Arabic and they don't understand what's being said in terms of just Arabic language-wise. But almost all 80% can read the Quran in the Arabic language, in Arabic script, right? So that's something that's generally done by Muslims, because reading the Quran in Arabic is reading it in the original language, which is an act of worship, and you get reward for that, right? So it's something that you do want to aim for, right? So the reason why I'm telling you this, it may not be the #1 priority in your whole life, but you should make it a priority, because we're offering the class next week. So put it at the top of your priority list, because we're not going to offer it again for another year. So then you have to wait another year. So if you're interested in taking this class, Quran Recitation 1, you don't need to know anything about Arabic, not even the letters. So you walk in day 1, and we're going to teach you what is the letter Alif and what it looks like, and what is the letter Ba and what it looks like. And by the end of 10 weeks, you're going to pick up a Quran from anywhere, and you're going to be reading the Arabic in that Quran, if you do your homework every week. Yeah. Yes, we do. So the timings are on the internet, but I can tell you, Mondays, 7 to 9:50 p.m. for the Quran recitation class. Monday nights, 7 to 9:50. You could say 7 to 10, but people are like, oh, 3 hours, that's very intimidating. So 9:50. It's like buying something for $9.95, right? One day of the week, yes. One day of the week. Alhamdulillah. All right, so I would not miss that opportunity. But we also have other classes. So this is what we have. We have this program. We have different programs. Here's basically, I'll narrow it down. There's 2 ways this can work. One is you look at these classes and you say, okay, these are the classes we offer throughout the year, okay, over 2 years. We're offering some classes coming up starting next week. Classes start next week. So not this Monday, but the following Monday, the 25th of September. So we have 5 classes starting. You can look at our online schedule. You can either pick a few classes and say, you know what, I'll just take a few classes and, you know, I just want to learn a little bit more. Or you can say, you know what, I have time to dedicate to this, and I want to take my Islam to the next level. I want to get to the point where I know my Islam down very well, and within 1 year, I don't want to be seen as a new Muslim anymore. I'm going to be the teacher of all these other people, you know, and I'm going to be answering their questions and all of that. That's where you want to enroll into the degree program. So if you're ready to make that commitment, even if you can only take 1 class per quarter or whatever it is, if you say, you know what, I want to take eventually all 22 classes, and I want to finish the entire program and get my Islamic knowledge down completely, then you want to enroll into that BA program, the degree program. If you're like, look, maybe someday, right now things are tough, I have kids and family and work and all of these things, I can't do that at this point in time, and go to our schedule and look at the class and say, okay, which class should I take? Let me just enroll in that class. And if you're like, look, this homework thing doesn't work for me, these exams, they don't work for me, I want to learn, but I don't have the time to commit so much to it, then we have a program for you as well. It's called the audit program. Audit program means you do not get credit for your class, you cannot apply it towards a degree, you're just going to come and you're going to sit in the class, and whatever you get, you get. If you get 50%, if you zone out, if you come late to class, whatever, you still get better than 0, right? So you learn something, you can join the audit program and audit the class. And if you can't make it to class, you could do it online as well. So we have the online, we have the video, we have live streaming, we have recorded videos. You can go back and watch it and everything. So the first thing you want to do is, if you're interested, figure out what program is for you, right? Like if you're going to go to a gym, right? You're going to be like, what kind of gym person are you going to be? Are you going to be a person who goes into the gym and be like, you know what, I don't know how often I'm going to come, but I'm going to come every time I feel like coming, I'm going to come in, I'm going to do some exercise. Okay, that's audit program for you. All right? If you're going to go to the gym and you be like, look, I'm going to do once a month, I'm going to come in like once in a while, but I'm not going to like become a gym type person. I'm just going to go once in a while, but I'll try and do a little bit more. That's the that's the Access Cal Islamic program for you, which we'll have Sister Rawan in the back explain that to you in more detail. And if you're the type of person who goes, look, I am ready. I'm enrolling into this gym. I'm enrolling into martial arts. I'm on the black belt degree program. Sign me up. I'll be there 3 times a week, and I'm ready to do this thing all the way. That's the degree program. Okay? So you have to decide first of all what program you'd like to be in if you want to do a class. And just be honest with yourself. I always tell people, aim high, but be honest. You know what you're capable of, right? So pick that, and then we have different classes being offered. So we have more information in the back, inshallah ta'ala. Do you have any questions about this class? All of our classes are 1 day a week. Each class is 1 day a week. So we're offering 5 classes. Each one is 1 day a week, 3 hours, 3 hours per week, right? Plus an extra hour of lab. I'll tell you about that later. There is a special offer for new Muslims as well, but I forgot what it was. Jamal, what was the special offer for new Muslims? There you go. So if you graduate from the level 2 program, then what do you get? You get a free course. I had it written down somewhere. I forgot what it was. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, so we can do that. And also, if finances are an issue, just like any other college, university, what we have is we have a financial aid program where we have student loans. The difference between their loans and our loans is that we don't charge interest, because interest is haram, right? So the thing is, the reason why we do this is that we say, look, we want people to take the classes, but we want them to value the class as well, because the school needs to, function independently. And people will value their education when they're investing their money into it. So if you take the student loan, you take the financial aid, you can't pay it back until 3 years later, once you're financially stable and all of that, that's fine. You pay 3 years later. But the thing with financial aid is that if you're on financial aid, you have to maintain a certain GPA to show that you're serious. Financial aid is not for someone who goes, I'm going to try it out, and then, oh, I failed, oh, I didn't make it. Oh, can I try it again? I'm going to do it again, and then I'm going to fail again, and then I'm going to go again, and that's not right? So we want you to take it seriously. So we facilitate for everyone. If you cannot afford the classes, but you really, really want to learn, I can promise you we don't say no to anyone. Okay, we'll figure something out. So if you're serious, you want to do it, but you can't afford it, don't say, I want to do it, but I'm not able to afford it. If you really want to do it, we'll figure out a way to get you to do it and figure something out, inshallah. But if you're kind of like iffy and stuff like that, then you should know yourself, inshallah. Okay? Alhamdulillah. Anything else? All right, Jazakumullah khair. It's always a pleasure to join the group. Alhamdulillah. It's always nice to have Jamal pressure me a little bit to remind me to throw in my schedule one more of these. So Jazakumullah khair. May Allah bless each and every single one of you, inshallah.
All right, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Shaykh Mustafa. I really appreciate it. May Allah bless you. Few announcements. I want to make sure everyone is aware of it. What is next Sunday? I can't hear you. Muslim Jeopardy, right? So I want to make sure, because we're very blessed. We completed the life of the Prophet Muhammad. It took us a little over a year. We went at a very nice pace, obviously guest speakers and some breaks. So to conclude with that and to examine and to quiz everyone, we're going to have a Muslim Jeopardy. And to be honest, that course that we did was based on primarily Shaykh Mustafa's book, The Life of the Prophet Muhammad, and some other resources, but primarily that was the main reference. So if you guys found that to be something you guys could understand, which I hope everyone did, then CIU is going to be a breeze for you guys. It'll be interesting. It'll be very fun, challenging at times because you want to get knowledge. Huh? That course is coming, right? Yeah. So that course is going to be taught as well. So for those of you, if you are interested in signing up, our sister's in the back. She's taking sign-ups. So if anybody wants to register or show interest or something of that nature, you're most welcome to do so. So next Sunday, remember, is going to be Muslim Jeopardy. And we're also doing a potluck, remember. So I passed around the sign-up sheet. Is it here somewhere? On the sister side? Okay. If you're in a position to bring something, that'll be great. Just please go ahead and sign it up. Sign up your name and whatever you're bringing. Obviously, if you're bringing something like a main dish or meat products, just make sure it's zabi halal. To make sure everyone can eat, inshallah. But if you're not able to bring something, it's not a problem. But if you can, it'll be really good. That'll be next week, inshallah. Same timing. We start right after. Coffee with the Shaykh. Next week, our new timing, every Friday, right? We moved it to 6 p.m. because Maghrib's getting sooner, sunset. So we're going from 6 to about 6:45 p.m. So keep that in mind, and the times will be changing as we get closer, the days get shorter. Fiqh of fashion. Remember we had the announcement last week with the Al-Maghrib event that's coming up September 30th, I think, or 29th. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. How many of you have shown interest or are going to be going for that event? Fiqh of fashion, the trends, yes. Okay, now remember, for those of you, their policy at Al-Maghrib is if you've recently accepted Islam, meaning a year or under, the entire weekend seminar is free for you. So if you don't remember when you accepted Islam and you accepted with us here, let me know. I can go back and check our database. But if you're sure that it's under a year, I would encourage you to sign up. It's like an $85 course. They'll give it to you for free. You can either connect with me or Brother Waleed, who made the announcement last week. So try to do that. It's really interesting, inshallah. And I think that is everything. We have a lot of food left over. Make sure you guys make your plates. Now we have another event coming up afterwards. So do me a favor. We're going to leave the chairs, but we have to put the tables away. Leave the chairs. We'll just put the tables away, except for this one here. May Allah bless you all. We will see you at Coffee with the Shaykh Friday. And then Muslim Jeopardy on Sunday. All right. Assalamu alaikum.